Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authentically Suge. I am your host, Suge. It's already February, the 18th, 2021, and this is my very first podcast of the year. Yeah, I had all intentions of doing one the first of the year, like Happy New Year, and then through the January, but life happens. And it's in this life that we still have to live, regardless of what is going on, regardless of what we've been through, regardless of anything. And so I am so pleased to have as my first episode of the year a friend of mine, a friend that I met on Instagram last year, who has a story just like all of yours, yet she is unafraid to tell it. She's going to tell it authentically in her own words. But let me just introduce her for just a little bit, and I'm just going to let her have her way. And like I said, we met on Instagram through the pandemic. And I've told you time and time again that a lot of things were birthed through the pandemic if you just allowed yourself to just plant a seed. So, Suzie Settles is a thriver. And I'm telling you what, when you hear her story, that is for real, a thriver of childhood PTSD and a survivor of narcissistic domestic violence abuse and mother's touch. And you're the owner and operator and CEO of Mother's Touch, Inc., a community organization that provides programs to individuals and nonprofits of inner city success that assist families and co-parents with becoming healthier, happier, and holistic. And some of this cut off. So I'm kind of glad that I'm not telling all of it because I want you to tell all of it yourself. So, you know what? I'm just gonna put this down because again, I just want you to tell your story. I am so pleased, Suzie, to have you with me. I'm gonna sit back and just let you have it.
All right. Thank you, Shug. I'm so pleased to be here. It's amazing how we can meet the most amazing people on social media. Of course, people, sometimes there's different, people you run into, but then you connect with those genuine people who have been through their own stories, who have their own stories, and who are lifting up communities, and that's what I think it's about. It's about getting to that point in your life and realizing, hey, everything I went through is to help someone else, because of course, when you're going through it, you don't see it like that. It's detrimental.
Okay, what is that it? Come on now, because you're preaching it, yes, but we need to know what your it is. As you've seen that I post on Instagram a lot of times, it. So
Mhm,
you're talking through because you've been through it. So
mhm.
we want to know what your it is, Suzie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about my background. I grew up with my grandmother raising me because from the age of 2, my mother was in and out of jail. So, I did not have my mother. I barely knew my father. The only memory that I have of my father is being in his car at the age of 4. And my father died, committed suicide when I was 5 years old. And from the time that I could remember, my mom used to always tell me that my dad never wanted me. Like, pretty much like I was never good enough for anything. And, in a child's mind, when you don't have your mother there, your mother would rather do illegal stuff than to be with you.
Mhm.
And your dad, commit suicide. And I never was able to ask, was that true or anything like that? So I had no choice but to believe what I was told. So that's a lot of abandonment, from my mother, rejection from my father, rejection from my mother too, because as I grew older, I realized that she really didn't want to be a mom. So she was avoiding her emotions, in the form of criminal activity that she knew would, keep her away from us essentially, but I was the only child for 8 years or 7 years until my mom decided to have, other children. And my stepfather, before my sisters came along, we were like best friends. Like, I was like, oh, great, a man who actually loves me. And then when my one sister came, he started treating me differently. He started abusing me physically. And one time he grabbed me by my hair. Like, I've always had this thick head of hair, and I would not do anything with it, right? My mom wasn't there to do anything with it. I didn't know how to do anything with it. And he grabbed me by my hair one time and threw me down the stairs backwards like a rag doll. And I had to fight to catch myself, because had I kept going, I would have barreled into the wall. So I kind of had to turn myself around and, catch myself so that I wouldn't barrel into the wall. And then I experienced molestation by someone in my family. And so that led me to believe that, okay, well, men only want, I'm only good enough for sex, or, so I found myself sharing myself with every man that I met, sharing myself sexually with every man that I met, because I thought that that's what it was about. They never wanted to get to know me. Of course, that's going back to my daddy issues, where my dad really never wanted to know me or be with me. So, and I still struggle with it today, of the not being good enough. And I have my days. Yesterday I had my day, and sometimes I have to just learning where I am now and loving myself now. Before, I would sabotage my life. I would stop. I would procrastinate. I would, like this interview, I probably would have came up with some excuse on why I couldn't make it, because, well, I've grown through that, because, and I've learned now I know that that's my inner child needing nurturing. I know that those are the days that I need to just love myself a little bit more.
Yes.
And nurture that wounded child, because it's the child who was wounded. It's the child who believes that she's not good enough.
Right.
It's not me. It's not the adult, because I've worked through that. So, and I'm thankful for my journey and being able to do that, because had this been a couple years ago, things would have been different. I would have sabotaged myself. And because those voices come, they come as reminders. And it's like, you have to love them and let them know, no, you are worthy and deserving of every good thing that's coming into your life. It's just a reminder to myself. So, I grew up in a family that was riddled with abuse. My uncle, who I looked up to, he was constantly in and out of jail, but he was very abusive to his girlfriends, and my mother dealt with my stepfather abuse. He was very abusive. And so I thought that this was normal, right? Because this is what I grew up in. This is the only type of relationship I saw, right? So I found myself in a 20-year abusive relationship. And, I tell everybody, I never say that I wasn't, I was perfect, because I wasn't. I realized that my abusive past, the things from my daddy issues, my mom issues, they were starting to surface. The difference is I chose to work on those, whereas he was like, no, I'm not doing, nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm perfect. And that's the narcissist, they're perfect. They don't have nothing to work on. Right. Yeah. But, so, and I just really started to grow out of that relationship. And there was one instance where I knew it was the end. I had left him to move down to North Carolina in 2010. And I had spent almost a year by myself, loving myself, pursuing the things that I loved. And when he came, I let him back in anyway. But in 2014, it was right after we had built our house, and he called me a bitch. Now, before, it was okay, right? We would just get into it or whatever. But this time I was like, something felt different. Something felt different, because I had started to love myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, all this over 60, because I had, he had got mad at me because I spent $60 on things for the house, like pillows and blankets and stuff like that. I was asking him about $60. He was out drinking with his boss, a female with, and we had like, he was, there was infidelity in the relationship previously, but I had finally started to love myself. I stayed because I didn't love myself. But at this moment, I had finally started to love myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm better than this. I'm
Mhm.
better than this. And it was at that moment that I told him, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore, and I'm not going to do this anymore. I have stuck with you, by your side. I have gone through my healing, and you refuse to do it. And I'm not going to be in this relationship anymore because this is the end. This is the end because you don't want to grow anymore.
Right.
You don't want to grow anymore. You want to stay in the same place, and I'm growing. And so basically, I outgrew that relationship. And it was funny because actually, once I got out of the relationship, that's when I realized I was in a 20-year abusive relationship.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that interesting how that happens? Uh, Isn't isn't that interesting? And it's hard to explain to anyone that
Mhm,
has never been in that
mhm.
type of situation.
Yeah.
Because I was very early at the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And for me, for someone to say, didn't you know? Now, my situation, of course, was very different, where I came from no abuse to an abusive relationship. So, yes, I knew, yet,
Well,
I,
because you think you can fix them. You think you can.
oh my God, that good girls complex. I talked about that the other day. I was a straight A student. I had love for my family. Come on now. I could surely love his demons out. But yeah, you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah, so and I know that was a lot of the reasons why I stayed too, because then you hear from people, well, if you work on yourself, then he'll have no choice.
Yes.
But no, that's only the man who actually loves you
Right.
and values you.
Yes.
The man who actually loves you and values you, he's not going to put himself in a position to lose you.
No.
And same thing with the woman, when she truly values you and honors you and loves you, she's not going to put herself in a position to lose you.
No.
You know, you know, and so I had to come to grips with that this man never really loved me in the first place. Well, he couldn't because he really didn't fully love himself. And I know that was the premise of our relationship. We got into it based off of need
Mhm.
and attachment.
Yeah.
And you can't get into a relationship like that. You have to get
You can
into a
get into
relationship.
it while it won't stay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to love yourself and know that when that person is not able to bring their best, because we do have our days where we don't come with our best, then you pick up the slack. But it's different when you're constantly the one, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
picking up the slack.
Right.
No, that's a one-sided relationship there, and you deserve reciprocal giving. You deserve it because you have it to give. And for so many years, I didn't recognize that about myself because I was always trying to get, I guess you could say, I was always trying to get that love because
Mhm.
I never had it growing up. So I thought that I had to try to get it outside of myself until I started loving myself. But once I actually left, it was like the most freeing thing ever that happened to me.
Yes.
um
Yes.
and I just really, and I told people, I stayed away from dating because I was like, no, I'm really trying to just get to know me again, because I had spent 20 years in that relationship. But I did meet a man in 2015 when I left, and he actually showed me, like, this is what you deserve. But I didn't believe it because, coming from my background and stuff like that, and just walked away from it. But I knew within myself that I needed to heal before I got into that relationship. And that's what I told him. Like,
Mhm.
I need to find me
Yes.
and love me before I can give you what you need, you know. Um, and yeah, so I had to walk away from that relationship. It was hard. I kept trying to hold on and
Mhm.
eventually let go, but just really, yeah, just really started to love myself and to know my worth and know that, you know what, God will send it back greater, you know, because if you give it up, I know that the universe has something greater planned for me.
Has to give it back.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, but it's really about me anyway. I'm learning to love myself and bringing the healthiest and best version of myself to every relationship, even friendships,
Mhm.
because we deserve that in our friendships too. We deserve reciprocal love, support in our friendships,
Right.
and that has really been my thing since I left. It's just that, no, I'm going to have everything that I deserve. And that's that reciprocal relationships all around, because I have it to give, So It's just really been, a journey. And, of course, I'm going through something else, I've been homeless.
But I want to stay on the self-love though, because you hear that and so much. You see it posted so much. And you talk about it so much, and it is so true. We have got to love ourselves
Yes.
before we can love anyone. We have to know what love feels like in
Yes.
order to receive it. It's like,
Yes.
how can I give something
Mhm.
that I've never received myself, don't know
Right.
what it feels like, don't know what it looks like?
Right.
And it is so important to love self. And then that way, when someone mistreats you, you
Mhm.
know when it
Yeah.
feels bad, even if you stay,
Yeah.
we stay for whatever reasons in
Right.
relationships, and not to say it is what it is, but it was what it was. We made that choice to
Right.
stay for whatever reason. I was in and
Right.
out. And so then you go to, so you dealt with all of that, the abandonment issues, the narcissistic, abusive, husband, and then you were going to say that you dealt with also homelessness.
Homelessness. I have gone to jail because saw my, I attempted to go down my mother's road and went to jail and was like, nope, that's not what I want to do. It's
Mhm.
funny because I sold drugs from the age of 16 to 18 and I didn't get busted until I was of age to get a case. That's just the universe showing me right there, like this could be your life,
That was protection, honey.
Right,
That was
yes.
protection.
Universe showing me this could be your life. And when I was
Yeah.
staring out that little itty bitty window at the Brown Stadium, I was like, I don't want this type of life. I do not want to go down the same road that my mom and them went down, because I was being a product of my environment. And even though I found myself in that abusive relationship because of being a product of my environment, once I actually came out of it, and realized, and coming out of it, I had to learn how to love me. I had to learn how to take care of myself again
Yeah.
on my own. And so this led to me making, dumb decisions with my finances and becoming evicted and needed to stay in a hotel. And then he wasn't paying the mortgage because my name was primary on the mortgage. So that was ruining my credit. So I couldn't get an apartment. Um, Direct TV took some money out of my account, so I couldn't pay for the hotel. So I had to sleep in my car.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
but it was a lot of, I realized it was tearing that that foundation built on the sand, because it wasn't a firm foundation. It had to crumble. It had to be torn down so that I could build my life again on the firm foundation and trust of the universe. Um, but yeah, it was an adventure. And being in my car, and I still had a job. I was working and I had to go to the Walmart or the gas station every morning to wash up in the sink, because I was, sleeping out of my car. But even in my car, there would be nights that I would cry, but I would be grateful. I would express gratitude and say, well, at least I have a car with a roof over it, because it could be so much worse. And so when I was able to pay for the hotel on the weekends, I would express gratitude again. Like, I'm thankful for this bed. I'm thankful for this hot shower, because
Yes.
during the week I was having to wash up in Walmart bathroom or a Shell gas station bathroom. I would go in there and wash up, do the little whole bath or whatever it is they call it.
Bird baths, or yeah.
Yeah, whole bath, bird bath, whatever they call it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to ask you, were you all alone during this time? Did you have any support, or was it just you?
It was just me because I lived in North Carolina and my family lived in Ohio. Now, here's the thing with my family. It's an
Mhm.
abusive family, right?
Right.
So eventually it ended up going back to Ohio because I was on nothing. My car had got repossessed. I was I couldn't pay my rent. I didn't receive an eviction. They didn't take me to court or anything like that. I ended up leaving the apartment, but I was getting warnings of eviction and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Thank God they never filed. But I ended up going back home. Now, listen, I had rented my sister an apartment in my name. So I was like, I got to come back and just stay with you in this apartment. It's in my name, right?
I was gonna say, yeah, the apartment. I need to stay in the apartment in my name, right? Okay.
Okay.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Girl, me and her ended up getting into it. I had to put her out because she thought that she was going to put me out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is my apartment. I understand that you have paid, security and deposit. And when I put her out, she had only paid like half of January's rent. But it was like, you're not going to, this is my apartment if you want to get down to it. Because I didn't have to help you. But out of the goodness of my heart, I did. And so that's what made me realize, oh, damn, my whole damn family is like him. Like, this is the reason why I attracted this man, because this is my whole entire family, my mom too. And not that I don't love them, because that's my family. That's
Right.
I stay away. I stay away because I know that y'all don't have that genuine love and support for me. Because when I didn't have nothing, I would ask my sister, could I borrow her car? It was always a problem. I would ask my mother, because they didn't want to see me get back up. They were okay with me being down and out and needing them. Because the narcissist needs for you to need them, because it makes them feel
That's what makes them
mighty. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
your family, of course, they were in the same, you had come to the light. So they were still in darkness. They were still in the same situation that you came out of.
Right.
And
And they're
so
still there.
they were willing or able to see the light. Then
Right.
I would think that that will be their response, because they haven't taken the journey out of the pit like
Right.
like you did. And it is out of the pit
Yes.
that we come out of abuse. It is literally
Yeah.
demonic. I mean, abuse is that. So
Yeah.
when you come out of that pit, and I know that there are sometimes certain instances, like over the years, I've gotten past that, and I've had, even if there's a pit of unforgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and if I've gone to someone and I've asked for them to forgive me, and then they bring that up, and I said, no, I'm not going to that pit again. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to that pit again from unforgiveness, because we reconciled that then. And so when you come out and when you see the light, when you've been in abuse, whatever kind of abuse it is, and you want everybody that has been in that to see it, because
Yeah.
but yet, you were in it for 20 years, so now you're at your family and you realize they're still there where you
Yeah.
left them.
Yeah.
So here you are. So
Mm-hmm.
you do what? You take off and you just say, I got to get Susie together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
this was what year are we in now?
We're
When
in 2018 when I
yeah,
went back. I went back at the end of December. I was still here, and then my car got repossessed.
okay.
And like I said, I was facing another eviction, and I was like, you know what? But I know that it was I meant for me to go home so that I could heal those relationships too, and get
Mm,
my name back. Get my name back, because your name is the most valuable thing that you have.
yes.
Get my name back from out of that apartment, because what I had told her originally before we had got into it was that I wasn't going to renew the lease, because I was planning on going back to North Carolina. And I want, everyone to know that I love my family. And I know that the reason why they do the things that they do, just like you said, is because this is something they have always done. They don't know anything other than what they've always done. And until they are ready to step into that place of loving themselves away from abuse,
Yes.
then they too will continue to try to sabotage and things of that nature. So I know that, I talked to my mom. My sister just commented on a post, on Facebook. I talked to my aunt. She lost her son in September, so I constantly will call and check up, on my aunt and stuff like that. But I also know that it's best for me to kind of keep my distance,
Sure. Sure.
because that's just healthier for my mental health.
Mhm.
And, even with sometimes talking to my mom, I just be like, all right, ma, I gotta go, like,
Yeah.
I love you, you know what I'm saying?
They bubble up, or those are
Yeah,
those reminders, and so
yeah.
good examples. So, and when you said 2018, that's just 3 years ago. Well, really, that's just 2 years ago, because we're just second month into 2021. So we're just talking about 2018. So you're still going through from age, all of
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
2018, you're still. So take us from 2018 to 2020.
Okay, so 2018, like I said, mostly all of those relationships, because they all took her side, so which was fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to explain myself. I'm on a different path, And so I just really just started rebuilding my life from there. And the great thing about Ohio is that they give you a lot more assistance than North Carolina do. I love North Carolina because North Carolina is a very self-sufficient state. It's like you come here on your shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I had to go back home.
You gotta have it together when you come up in here.
Yes, that's pretty much. And I love them for that because it challenges you. It makes you a better version of yourself. But I also appreciate Ohio because I needed the public assistance, you know. And the good thing about Ohio is that where I lived at, I could hop on the bus, get to where I need to.
Subway, anything. Yes.
I was able to walk to the grocery stores if I needed. So it was like, okay, y'all don't want to help. Gucci, I'm good. I got God. As long as I got God, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Switched my daughter's daycare because my mother was helping out and taking her to daycare and stuff like that. But I nipped all that. It was a daycare.
You have a daughter?
I do. She's 12.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. She'll be 13 this year. I got 2 kids, but my son is grown. He's 24. He'll be 25 this year.
All of this, you were still mothering.
I was still
you were
mothering.
Still.
Yeah. But the good thing is that my daughter can see what courage and strength looks like, you know, and I tell her all the time, I teach her self-love and let her know that, hey, mommy's not perfect. You know, some days you're going to have to provide, you know, that love for yourself because I'm not perfect either. But I am here to show you I'm being the healthy adult that I needed when I was younger, not only to myself, but to my daughter. So, yeah, I'm still being a mother in the midst of this. And so what I just did was just really paid up the stuff that I needed to pay up, save my money. And I was determined to come back to North Carolina because I love North Carolina. North Carolina was home when I first arrived here in 2010. I was like, this is home. This is home.
What part of North Carolina? I'm sorry. What part?
I live in Greensboro, but when I first moved,
Greensboro. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But and the funny thing is that in my prayer room before I even left Ohio, I was told, you know, it was like Spirit told me, North Carolina. It was like I had no family here. I would be on my own. But that's a way to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So yeah, I just worked my butt off, got back down here to Greensboro. Still didn't have a car. Me and my baby caught the Greyhound one-way ticket. Came back. I said, look, I'm in a great place right now. So I know that it'll just, you know, happen. And I had started correspondence with the school board so I could drive the bus. So I knew that I would be driving the bus. It took a couple months or whatever, but I was still in school. But I was like, I'm gonna do it. It's hard here though to catch the bus and stuff, right?
Yes, it is.
So I would have to take lifts. Then I found out it was like a bus stop up the street, but it's about a 10-minute walk. But it'll take me to like the depot, and then I can get around town and stuff like that.
Bundle up when it's snowing and walk that 10 minutes. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So I did a lot of stuff. I walked to volunteer at my daughter's school. That's a 2-hour walk. It's an hour there and an hour back. So I was getting like a lot of exercise. I was doing my little YouTube videos, you know, through this whole process. And I had made a video like, you know, I'm trying to pursue my dreams. And I'm like, God, this don't look like the dream. Like, this ain't the dream, you know, because we had this vision, but it takes work. You know, it takes work. It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of loving yourself and believing in yourself. And this what it was doing. It was strengthening my faith. It was getting me out of that you're not good enough, you know, to believe in myself, because the higher that we go, we're still going to have these things that come about. We still have these challenges. And how bad do you want it? Are you willing to continue to work for it, or do you want to just give up on it? So, so eventually I ended up getting a job with the school board. Nice lady, lives down the street, would take me back and forth until I got my car.
Always provide.
Yes. And end up getting me a car. They helped me out with some furniture because I ain't had nothing in my apartment. I didn't care. I was able to pay my bills. We wasn't getting evicted.
That's right. You weren't in your car. You weren't in an abusive relationship anymore. You weren't living with a narcissistic person. It was you. You had owned your truth. You had gone through the journey, and you were like, I don't need nothing else. You got you and your daughter. Girl, freedom.
Freedom.
Peace. Oh, peace.
There's nothing more priceless. Peace is priceless.
Yes, it
And
is.
because
Yes,
I
it is.
had spent so many years with my mind being played
Yes.
with all these, oh my goodness, that feels amazing. And so I keep my peace.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't let you
Um,
can't let people steal your peace. But you got it's the peace of God though that
yeah,
transcends all understanding. So you
yeah,
have to first have a relationship with God.
yes,
Because you will never know true peace. I mean, when you're going
yes,
through that stuff and when everything is raging like Peter on the water, I hope I'm saying that right,
yes,
and he just says, come, you have got to have the peace of God. You have got to know him. That's the only way I know I went through it. I was
yes,
years old. When
yes.
I allowed things in my life,
Mhm.
I knew that I had a higher purpose. I
Yeah.
knew that, but that is crucial. You know what? And I'm just gonna, I don't see how some people, and this is not anything, this is just Shug saying, how people get along without a relationship with God. And I'm sure they do. And this is just me, just as a Christian. But yes, it's at peace. So here you are now. So we're like 2019 and you rocking and rolling, you paying your bills. People are blessing you because God knows the plans he has for you, right?
Yeah.
Plan to prosper you, plan to
Yeah.
give you hope in the future. That's Jeremiah 29:11. So he sent these people to help you because you're finally in a place where
Yeah.
you want to be helped.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And I wasn't afraid of
there you go.
accepting the
Yeah,
help, and also to creating my boundaries, because a lot of people think, well, if I give you stuff, then I can treat you any kind of way. And it kind of happened a little bit like that. And it was like, no, knowing your boundaries. And God was just showing me that to really watch too. Because everybody who says that they're for you are
yes,
not always
that's
for
right.
you. A lot of times it is in an attempt to control you, because they want to have that leverage over you.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, because I'm providing for you guys too. I'm not trying to control you. Don't try to control me. God showed me a lot of that because I was working with a lot of women, and a lot of these women are very controlling and trying to really, and I'm like, no. But it also was showing me too. And this is why I stayed in that relationship, trying to play God, and I'm not God. I'm not God. God, it's not my responsibility
Yes.
to heal anybody. It's my responsibility to love people and to show them that they're their own healers.
Mhm.
And that's why I stayed in that relationship, because I was trying to be Captain Save a Ho,
Yeah, of course.
Mrs. Fix It,
Yeah.
because this is what I did. But
Mhm.
now I know, baby, you got to go and love yourself before you come into this union with me, because I love myself. That's what I have to give you. I have to give you the healthy love that I have for myself. So I'm automatically going to give that out, and that's how you know when you're in the right relationship, because even though you have conflict, you're not going to tear each other down.
No.
You're not going to be degrading to each other. You understand that, hey, this person is not perfect either, but you know how to communicate better with each other.
Yes.
It's not a shit show or tearing people down.
Mhm.
It's like, look, today is one of those days, babe. You know what I'm saying? Can I get a little bit extra from you? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
But
Like,
you have to have you have to have had a relationship.
yes.
Communication. I mean, that is like key.
Hmm.
Communication. And I also said when you have relationships, I was asked this when I did this thing on Friday about what is the main thing. Paxton asked me three things that I thought were important for relationships. Communication, of course, is always, number one, or should be in there. And I said, number one, my number one was let your mate know about your past, the
Yes.
good, bad, and the ugly. Because rest assured, if you're wanting to spend your entire life with someone,
Mhm.
even though we've worked on those issues,
Mhm.
even though we've have better coping mechanisms,
Mhm.
they will come up. They
They
will
will come up.
manifest. And they
Mhm.
will come up too. I think sometimes mine come up to keep me humble, to
Yes, I just said that last night. Yes.
remind me of what I've already
Yes.
overcome. I did a post this morning about, sometimes when I look in the mirror, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing, that my neck's getting a little saggy, or I have these imperfections. And then I have to turn around and remind myself of
Mhm.
what I've already overcome. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, those triggers, They will
They
come.
are.
And I can only imagine after you're talking about years and years. About how old are you now, if you don't mind
I'll,
me asking?
I'll be 46 in March.
So
Mhm.
we're talking about,
40 years. I didn't leave until I was 40. I didn't leave that relationship until I was 40. And I didn't leave my family behind until 3 years later. So I was 43 years old,
and this
really.
started when you were like about six or so. The
Well, really, I mean, I was left in a police station because at 2 years old, my mom was running from the police officers with
right.
me in her arms at 2 years old and in a car, and they finally pulled her over, took her to jail. And of course, I was in the police station with staring into the face of this man. Like I've had this reoccurring nightmare, and I didn't know what it was until my mother actually told me. But I was staring in the face of this white man, okay? Never seen this man before in my life, looking all around for any familiar face. I'm 2 years old. I don't know. So I'm crying hysterically. And once my grandmother came to the station to pick me up, then everything was okay. But it was an unknown man. This was a foreign man. I didn't know who he was. And so I was crying. He's trying to console me, and it wasn't until I was in that big comfy chair at my grandmother's house that I was actually like calmed.
Of
And so
course.
I told my mother about that dream, and she told me the story that basically she was on the run. She fled, she jumped out of our apartment window with me on the second floor, ran, drove, fleeing the police, and they caught up to her and took her to the Euclid police station. And of course, I was in the car. I could have went to child services
Mhm.
had it not been for my grandmother. My grandmother was my guardian angel. And I believe that even in her death, she still is my guardian angel. She kept protecting me. She kept protecting me. And she had kids of her own. My uncle is a year older than me. So she had her own babies to deal with. And so a lot of my life, I've known my grandmother loved me with everything. When she died, everybody's like, oh, you must be Subu. So that's why I go by Suzie, because it's my
Okay.
grandmother's name for me. My grandmother wanted me to be named Suzie. But when she died, everybody's like, oh, you must be Subu. That's all she talk about is her Subu.
Super.
I love my grandmother, and I know that my grandmother loved me, but there's nothing like a mother and father's love. And a lot of the times my aunts and uncles, they made me feel like I was, the outcast, because it was like, nope, we're just going, and we only taking Mark. And Mark is my uncle that's a year older than me. So I was left alone a lot of my life. So a lot of men can't deal with that I'm okay by myself. They feel like they have to create this drama
Mhm.
in my life, in order for me to, and I'm like, what you don't understand is that I run away from drama. Okay.
What do you
Like,
mean by they seem like they want to create this drama? What does that mean?
because they want to like use other girls, other women to, to kind of get some kind of, I guess, emotional reaction out of me. And it's
Okay.
like,
Okay.
you
Okay.
don't understand. Like, I'm okay by myself. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to love you while you're here. I'm going to take care of you. But the moment that you use another woman to
Mm.
try to break my confidence or make me feel insecure,
Yeah. Boy,
bye,
bye.
bye.
Yes, yeah.
Because
And
you don't need that.
and
That's and
especially with right,
that's mental. That's mental abuse.
right. And especially what you've been through. What you've
Yeah.
been through. At this point, you're like, next, they ain't taking that. No, no,
Yes.
that don't look right.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
that don't smell right. That don't make
Yes.
me feel right. It
Yes.
don't make me. If
Yes.
it gives me one goosebump, you are gone.
Next.
No,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
no.
And that's
I
why
have
I tell
this.
people, go ahead.
No, no, you go.
That's why I tell people it's so important to build a friendship first, and so like how I do my program is the same way, get to know that person mentally first, get to know them emotionally, and get to know them spiritually, and then y'all can take it to
Yeah.
physical. That's the fourth month. That's the same thing in my program. We working on mindset for 30 days. We working on
You gotta, oh, come on. Did I know you gotta tell us about the program? Because I know you're referring to it, but I want everybody to know what program specifically you're talking about.
So I'm still working out the details because
Okay.
I'm getting insight, and I really do think I'm going to make it like a Facebook community. It'll
Okay.
be a free Facebook community. It'll be free bi-monthly live Zoom sessions with me, but you will also get like the workbook every single month. You'll get your PDF books. that go along with that pillar, and just a community of support. And I'll be there, for any questions. I'll do videos, because that's how I'm doing right now with my 30-day challenge, because I did a 30-day challenge of loving yourself beyond abuse. And then once I was in that, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is my program. This is the program that I need to create. So I'm still working out the details. I'm not ready to launch it until April, but I'm thinking that I'm going to make it like a Facebook community, and it will just be a monthly charge. And you get all of that, all the tools, all the resources. And then you get me twice a month for any questions, anything that's pressing you, any challenges that you may be facing, just for me to help you kind of get over that hurdle, to just really be the light in that group, to show you, hey, you can get through it. This is
the expert, the leader in that group.
Yeah.
Now, because I only touched on this, is that the Mother's Touch Inc. or tell us? Okay,
so, a Mother's Touch Inc. I created a Mother's Touch Inc. because of everything that I went through, especially when I had left the relationship. I was struggling. There are organizations here that say, oh, we'll help you with rent. There was nobody to help me. They couldn't help me with my bills. They were only able to offer me food, which was great, but I had food stamps, and I appreciate that, but I had the food. I needed my bills paid,
Right.
And so a Mother's Touch was birthed from that. So what I do is I offer rental, not rental assistance yet, because I'm not bringing in that type of income yet, but it's coming so that I can.
Yes, it is. We're speaking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So right now I'm able to pay like light bill. I also include internet and cell phone, because I feel that those are utilities. Those are necessary utilities. Some of us need our phone, and a lot of us, especially with kids working from home, and parents too, we need our internet, so I included that. But, utilities is water, lights, gas, and then we do and then I do the cell phone and the internet. But I just really want to be the person that I needed when I was there. And so I'm being Coach Suzie, and helping people beyond their abuse, because I needed a Coach Suzie when I was going through it. If I had had the tools and the resources that I have today, then it wouldn't have took me 5 years, I don't believe, because I would have been a little bit smarter. It might have, but I'm thankful for the journey, because I get to be the innovator of this program. So yes, the program is listed under a Mother's Touch Inc., because that is eventually will be my nonprofit organization. But the Living Confidently Beyond Abuse, or Living Confidently, Loving Yourself Unconditionally Beyond Abuse, is the Coach Suzie brand, which is my for-profit.
Now, how do we get, because we could talk even more. I want to end though with two things. If you could just give the listeners 3 nuggets that we can go away with, whatever the 3 nuggets are. I'm not putting, what you learned or whatever. It's whatever 3 nuggets you want to leave us with. Before though you leave us with the nuggets, I want you to let everybody know how to get in touch with you, because I want the last things to be your nuggets. So before you even do that, I'm going to thank everyone for listening in, for tuning in, and I hope you meet me next time on Authentically Shug. I'm going to let Suzie roll us out with the 3 nuggets she wants us to know and how to get in touch with her.
Okay. So how you can get in touch with me is Instagram. I'm coaching_with_Suzie. You can also email me at SuzieSuttles@gmail.com, or go to my website, which is SuzieSuttles.com, and you can submit a form there, and I will be in contact with you. And my 3 nuggets are: the first one, forgive your parents. Forgive them. If you experienced any type of abuse, trauma, forgive those adults, those parents, your caregivers, whoever it was, because they were only passing down what they knew. They didn't know any better, Number 2, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself, not for what you experienced in your childhood, because you had no control over that, but forgive yourself for making the mistakes that you made in your adulthood, because They were not really just mistakes. They were lessons to teach you, and hopefully you learn from them. So forgive yourself, because I think a lot of us hold on to regret and resentment from ourselves, and therefore we pass that on to other people. And the third thing I would say is love your motherfucking self. Love yourself in your entirety. Shortcomings, flaws, imperfections. Love every part about you. That old abuse. Stare it in the face and say, you no longer own me.
Right.
And on those days when you're feeling like shit, love it. Love it. Because that's all it wants. It just wants a little bit of love and extra attention. That's it. But love yourself. That is the greatest thing that I can teach you, is to love yourself. It's the best thing that you could ever do for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for humanity.
Y'all, that's all I got. Susie, you took us out. Until the next time, everybody, be well, stay healthy, peace.